Episode 2. Three Mummies Make a Crowd.
We left off last time at the buffet, and I took a couple of minutes to decide what I really wanted because I was 300 days into carnivore and I really didn't want to ruin my streak. So I was left to peruse the items in those trays for a minute. And after a while, I decided that I was just going to stick with the pigeon. And when I sat down, I will confess that a cold beverage actually sounded good. Up until this point, I was drinking warm water, and I am not a warm water fan. So I ordered a cold beverage. So please don't vilify me for that. It was actually the best beverage of the day. Then, after lunch, we made our way to the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization. After getting off the bus, we made our way inside and did the whole security thing. And then we went through the turnstiles, which brought us into the main museum. And I have to tell you, the entrance was absolutely spectacular. I was thrilled. In fact, I perceived it better than the Cairo Museum itself, and I was actually excited for what was inside. After putting on these silly little headphones again, the group made its way to the first exhibit where our guide, Amira, explained some of the important things about the exhibits and what we were going to see. In fact, one of the first exhibits there was the Nazlet Gatur skeleton. It was estimated to be around 35,000 years old. Among some of the other artifacts is the coffin of Senedium, a third generation craftsman who worked on the famous tombs such as Ramses II and King Seti I, stone pillars with hieroglyphics, and the chariot of King Tahutmose IV with statues of his enemies tied up in front. The prosthetic toe on the foot of Tapaket and Mut from Luxor, cosmetics and other beautifying instruments, including mirrors, ankhs and other items, jewelry, vessels, funerary items, and statues, figurines, and so much more.
The National Museum of Egyptian Civilization is home to over 50,000 artifacts spanning over 7,000 years of Egyptian history.
What I love most about this museum is that it starts from the dawn of Egyptian civilization and then it moves through the Pharaonic eras into the Greco-Roman era and then the Coptic era. Then you see the postmodern Islamic influences that moved in and learn about Egyptian culture as it is today. The group eventually made its way down to the Royal Hall of the Mummies, and this was by far the most captivating and wonderful part of the museum. It was so intriguing. There were 22 mummies on display, including family members from the Ramsey family, the Amenhotep family, Seti, and even the Tutmos family. And there was this beautiful mummy down there. She looked really good for her age. She was beautiful, and I thought to myself, she would have been the most remarkably beautiful woman when she was alive. And I was intrigued. So there were a couple of items that I noticed, a little bit of check marks here and there. Some of it was the features. Now, there were a lot of inbreeding going on, and royalty married into royalty, and the families kind of became a cluster instead of a tree. Anyway, the pharaohs and the kings and the queens and everybody, they all had different physical features depending on if they were from Upper Egypt, which is south, or Lower Egypt, which is north. Now, Northern Egypt, which is the lower part of Egypt because of how the Nile flows, they had more of a light colored skin, like a bronzy color skin, and more straight hair. Well, the southern part of Egypt, so Upper Egypt, they had more thicker, curlier hair and darker skin. And that was apparent as you made your way through the mummies where their ancestry was from. It was very fascinating, very intriguing. I actually enjoyed this little tidbit of information, and you could see how they wore their hair. Very fascinating. Just a quick side note, the reason why I am not wearing my battle face paint is because I wanted to present myself as a peaceful, loving person, which I am. And I love the Egyptian culture, I love the Egyptian ways, and I love the Egyptian people. So there was no point of me wearing battle face paint and causing a ruckus out there, plus drawing attention to myself. And it was boiling hot. So I didn't want to stand there in the heat while my face melted off and I looked like a complete idiot. Anyway, so after the museum, we got back on the bus and we headed toward a perfume shop where they sold essences and aromatherapy oils. I was rather intrigued because in my undergrad, I did dabble in aromatherapy. And so some of these aromatherapy oils I hadn't heard of, but many of them I did. And there were a couple of oils where I thought, are these actually authentic or not? It was just a question. Apparently, this perfume shop does sell perfumes to the major brands that you could find in perfume shops around the world. So there were a couple of items that I did fall in love with. And yes, it was a tourist trap. And yes, I did fall for the tourist trap. So I ended up buying an essence or two for a lot of money. So besides that, it worked out. We all stunk by the end of the session. We all smelled very odoriferous. Anyway, we made our way back onto the bus where we decided to head on to the market. It was late at night, and this is where I found out that the drivers are kind of crazy, and the market for Ramadan is the whole thing was kind of a crazy experience. Now we entered the Khan el Khalili market. And as we were going through the market, a lot of the people within the market, they're either shopping or they own their own shops and they're trying to get us to buy something. And so they're calling us over, Habibi, Habibi, come, see this. What do I have? And it's all the same stuff. It's apparel, jewelry, bags, things that, well, may or may not be authentic Egyptian. The cotton, though, was pretty good. So Egyptian cotton. But the rest of it was kind of questionable. And so there were a lot of things that I didn't want. What shocked me the most, though, was their persistence, and they kept on handing stuff to us. And they would say, Here, come look. And they would hand me stuff. And we were told by Amira, do not take anything. But then we're walking through and they're throwing stuff at us. They're putting stuff around our necks and our heads. And they're like, come, you must see, come, dollar, dollar. And surprisingly enough, too, I had Egyptian pounds, but the American dollar went further. And they were quite considerably happier when you gave them a dollar. So if you go, when you go, I recommend instead of trading all of your money in for Egyptian pounds, take a lot of ones and $2 bills because they are more apt out there to haggle and to make good deals with that money. So I didn't know that. I was trying to haggle with Egyptian pounds and I ended up getting the raw end of the deal. I didn't know that at the end. I was also tipping in Egyptian pounds, and apparently they love American dollars. That's what their economy really runs off of. So, yeah, that was a learning curve. Anyway, we go through this market, and I'm being taunted and grabbed and everything like that. I wasn't grabbed, but they were close enough to be in my personal bubble. And I felt a little intimidated sometimes by the merchants in the market. But that's their lifestyle, and they are very personable, very loving people. So this isn't out of their norm. This is how they are. And we winded our way through this labyrinth of a marketplace to the back, where we found ourselves in a beautiful restaurant. The restaurant was adorned with a lot of lanterns and a lot of carpets and all sorts of different things on the walls. It was absolutely astonishingly beautiful. And we sat in the back, and I felt bad because I didn't know the customs about tasting stuff or not tasting stuff. I wasn't pretty sure about what I should do or not do, but it was basically a vegetarian meal. And I wasn't prepared because here I was still on the carnivore diet. And if I fell off of it, I would have felt horrible at this point. And so the hummus comes out, and the bread comes out, and the vegetables come out, and the bisque soup comes out, and all of the other accoutrements too. All of that comes out, and it's vegetarian. And I didn't know what to do or eat. I did taste a little bit, and surprisingly, the bread tasted like a tortilla. Nothing special. The bisque soup tasted like bisque soup. The rice, well, I didn't even taste the rice. The vegetables, well, I kind of pushed them off to the side because I know what vegetables taste like. It's not going to change in a foreign country. So I had an empty plate for most of it. But by the end of the evening, I was a little hungry. And, well, yeah, I needed some food.